What's up, everybody? This is Alex Christoforou with the Duran, and I'm here with Alexander Mercouris, editor-in-chief of the Duran. And today we're going to be taking a look at the anonymous source in the New York Times article. All right, Alexander. Who is it?
Well,
who's the rat? Who's the... who is it?
I don't know. I mean, that's the first thing to say. I mean, speculation is running wild. The New York Times says that it's a senior administration official, which could mean anything. I have to say, it does sound to me like a pretty senior person. There are rumours, which of course he has denied, that is Mike Pence. I could understand why it might be him, actually, because reading it very carefully, it sort of suggested to me that, you know, if you're looking for someone to carry on the good part, inverted commas, of the Trump program, you know, he's the good guardian of that. And if you're looking at someone, you know, not, you know, to end the bad things, well, you know, Mike Pence might be the person to do that. That was how it rather read to me. But of course, he's denied it, and ultimately, I simply don't know.
Well, the gambling sites have Mike Pence out in the lead as the person that did it. What does this say about Trump's wife? First of all, let me just preface this. It doesn't say, correct me if I'm wrong too, it doesn't specifically say it was a White House administration official. It says it was basically a staff, someone on the staff. And
That's right.
I take it that could mean a lot of different people.
That could mean lots and lots of people. And they were very careful to keep that as vague as possible. And of course, when they say senior, well, what does senior mean? But I have to say one thing. If what this person says, if he or she really knows what they're talking about, then I think it must be someone who has access to the White House and on a very regular basis, because the reports, the person speaks about documents being stolen from Donald Trump's desk and things being moved around and all sorts of things happening to control directly the President of the United States himself. Now, I would have thought that for someone to know that as well as that person claims to know it, that to me points to someone inside the White House, at least, or possibly in the national security staff. But that's where I would be looking for. Of course, if it's Mike Pence, then it's even more likely because he's going to be even more closely involved in what is going on in the White House than other officials would be, because he's the vice president.
Okay, you answered. I mean, that was where my question was going, is what does this say about the Trump administration and the senior level officials working for the President of the United States? What should Trump do? Does this have any significance for him and his agenda? Should he just brush this off, or should he follow that path, as he said in his tweet, turn this guy over because this is treason? Should he pursue a more aggressive line?
Right, okay. What does it say about the situation in the Trump White House? It says exactly what we, you and I and others on the Duran have been saying for a year and a half, which is that there is a deep state in the United States. The leaker, this person, gets round that by making this extraordinary comment about that they are the steady state. The steady state. Rather than the deep state. But let's be absolutely clear. Deep state is what these people are. I mean, there's no question about it. They are acting on behalf of what they see as the national interests of the United States to set aside the intentions of the president who has been elected constitutionally by the people. That is the kind of attitude you see in countries like Weimar Germany and others where there is a deep state. Turkey has been historically an example. The expression was coined there. So the United States has a deep state. It operates inside the White House. It has apparently, if this person is to believe, and by the way, I do believe this person. I believe him. It has considerable influence within the White House itself, and it is intentionally and purposefully and apparently effectively obstructing the president's agenda. Now, what should Donald Trump do? He should do what he said during the election he would do, which is drain the swamp. He should throw out these people, bring in his own people, carry out a proper examination of what is going on within the administration and the White House, put his own people in charge of the Justice Department, which is the source of all these problems ultimately, because it is not enforcing the law. And by the way, let us be absolutely clear, what is happening, what this person is describing, is completely unconstitutional and therefore illegal behavior. Stealing papers from the president's desk is a crime. Let's be quite clear about that.
Is it treason?
Well, right, treason is a complex concept in the United States because it's referred to in the Constitution. And there is a line of thought which says that what you call treason only happens in wartime in the United States. And is the United States at war? Well, who knows? It doesn't have to be treason. It can be lots of other things.
Treasonous? Treasonous?
Treasonous, certainly. I mean, if you are subverting the Constitution of the United States, and let us be clear about this, the president is the highest executive officer as a result of what the Constitution says. If you are setting aside and obstructing his will by criminal acts, then you are going against the Constitution of the United States. And that, if that isn't treasonous, then heavens knows what is. I find it impossible to see what is. So he needs to get his own Justice Department together with his own Attorney General, his own people in charge of the FBI, and he needs to crack down on the people in the staff. And I think he's absolutely right about this. It's now long overdue time that the New York Times, which has been actively involved in all of this activity, be called to account and be made to answer some very important questions about who all of these people are who have been leaking all these things to the New York Times in a transparent bid to undermine the President of the United States, and, if what this person says is true, even plotting to overthrow him.
Absolutely. To me, if this isn't a coup, I don't know what is. Maybe it's a slow-moving coup, but I think there's no doubt it's a coup. But you said earlier in your statement, Alexander, and I wrote it down, you said you believe what's being said. What is it that you believe? Do you believe the New York Times story, what this anonymous source is saying about Trump? Or do you believe that this anonymous source is acting in a treasonous manner, is acting in a deceitful manner? Clarify that.
I believe the second, and it's a good question that you asked me, actually. Let me take this opportunity to clarify that. I do not believe 99% of the stories I hear about Donald Trump, given that so much nonsense has been written about him, so much of which has been proved to be untrue. But I absolutely do believe, because we have been reporting it for a year and a half, and the evidence is out there and it is all over the place, that he has enemies within his own administration and within the US bureaucracy and within the media, and all of these people are working together to obstruct and block his policies, prevent him from seeing through on the things he promised the American people he would do if he was elected, and ultimately to remove him from the office of the President of the United States, to which he was democratically and constitutionally elected. That is what I believe.
Okay, great. Now, if you mentioned that Trump was elected to do certain things, my feeling on Trump is that whether you like his policies or not, he ran on a very specific platform. I mean, he had a list of things that he wanted to do. And to be honest, out of every president that I've seen in my lifetime, Trump is actually checking off that to-do list. you may not agree with moving the embassy to Jerusalem. You may not agree with the tax cuts or the trade war. Whatever you don't agree with, to me, is inconsequential. He ran on a platform. He promised the American people certain things that voted for him, and he is checking them off. Now, it seems to me that Woodward's book about Trump, which came out the other day, this article by the New York Times, the never-ending Russia story and Mueller and all that stuff, it seems to me that they're really coming after Trump very, very aggressively. I mean, this is ramping up very, very quickly, and it may even lead towards that's the pace at which it's ramping up, Alexander. This could lead towards violence. Why is this happening? Why is this getting so aggressive now? Does it have to do with Russia and Idlib and Syria? Does it have to do with the midterms in November? What's the reasoning?
Right. Well, first of all, you've made a lot of very interesting and very important points, and I'd like to sort of develop them. First of all, I think you're absolutely right. Donald Trump, whatever you think of him and whatever you think of his policies, has made a serious effort to execute on those policies, more so than any other president I can remember in my lifetime. And that, I think, is the problem. It is because Donald Trump is trying to do those things that he told the American people, if elected, he would do, that he is running into all this opposition. Because so many of his policies, especially, of course, the overarching policy, the overarching problem, which is relations with Russia, which is the one policy, by the way, that this anonymous source made the strongest point in condemning. So many of these policies are so opposed by the US political establishment. And what they have discovered since Donald Trump was elected is that this is a president who is not doing what all the other presidents before him have done for such a long time, which is get elected on one ticket and then do what the political elite wants. He actually tries to keep faith with those who elected him. And that is what is creating the crisis in Washington, but it also explains why Donald Trump's support in the country is so strong. And you are absolutely right. The people who are playing this game are playing with fire. Because if they remove an elected, constitutionally elected president from office because he did those things that he promised the people he would do, and whose support with the people is strong as in consequence, then there is going to be a massive popular reaction, because people are going to be very angry at having the president they elected, who is doing what they wanted him to do, taken from them. And that will also lead to a crisis of confidence in American democracy, and will lead many people to say, is the United States a democracy anymore? And what has happened to our Constitution?
The only way that I can see Trump buying any downtime, buying any kind of relief from this never-ending assault on him is war. Some sort of military action, some sort of military strike. Of course, we talk about Syria. It could be Iran. What do you think about that statement? Is that the goal of what's going on here?
Well, I hope you're wrong, because, of course, the last thing the world needs is more war at the moment, and we've already got far too much of it.
But it's the only thing they support, Alex. It's the only thing that unites left, right, neoliberals, neocons.
Exactly, and the United States is the source of it. But you are absolutely right. When is the time when Donald Trump has obtained bipartisan support? It is when he has done violent, warlike things. And I'm sorry to say this, a president at the, who is in risking not just impeachment and removal, but conceivably worse things. I mean, there's already talk from people about prosecuting him for various things when he's no longer president anymore. I mean, a president who's been pushed into the corner in that way, well, there's no knowing what he may do. I mean, it is entirely possible that he may capitulate and say, look, back me, because I will not only do what you want me to do, I will do it even more, and that means more war, even though I was elected to do the opposite.
Right.
I can very easily see it. I would not be surprised if it happens. I only hope it won't. But I hope experience perhaps says otherwise.
Should the New York Times turn over this person? And is this person, in your opinion, legally and morally, is this person that wrote this article, is this a rat? Is this absolutely despicable action? Or is it, to you personally and legally, is this an okay action from someone?
Well, I think I made it very clear. I mean, I think rat is actually far too mild a word to describe what he's done. I mean, I think, well, I mean, as we said, I mean, it is treasonous activity against the President of the United States. I mean, systematically and conspiratorially, because he says that there's a group of people involved in all of this, working to undermine the President and his policies from within his team, by undertaking criminal acts like stealing and doctoring his paperwork. I mean, that is just unbelievable, actually. And as for the New York Times, in my opinion, it crossed a red line. I understand fully that the media has to protect its sources, but there is a big difference between the media protecting its sources and the media actively colluding in criminal and, let's use the word again, treasonous activity. And I think if there was a different Justice Department out there, I think there would be people knocking on the door of the New York Times and asking serious questions. And I think they should be doing that. And I haven't yet given up hope that maybe one day they will. But who knows? We will see.
All right, we will see. And do you think we're going to find out who this is, by the way?
Eventually we will, and I'll tell you why. Either this person will be tracked down by Donald Trump's people and will be exposed and could very well find himself or herself sent to prison if the truth of what they've done comes out. If it's Pence, by the way, that's going to be hugely complicated.
That'll be complicated.
Because he's also an elected official. He's the vice president. Yeah. But, either we will find out, or eventually, if this plot succeeds and Trump is removed in some way, whoever it is and the group around him will come out and brag about it. So sooner or later, we will find out the truth. Of that I've no doubt. But I hope, for the sake of the United States, its Constitution and its democracy, that day is sooner rather than later. Because let us be quite clear about it, we have a constitutional and political crisis on our hands. You spoke about a creeping coup, and it seems to me that's what it is.
Yeah, it's without a doubt a creeping slow motion coup. This, I think, is indisputable. I hope they find out who it is sooner rather than later as well. I think for the good of the country and the world, to be honest.
I agree.
Alexander Mercouris, Editor-in-Chief of the Duran, thank you very much. Guys, if you like this video, click on the subscribe button down below and click on that notifications bell to get notifications every time we push out a new video. And visit the Duran shop, pick up a t-shirt, help support the Duran. Also, you can donate to us via PayPal. The link is down in the description. The link for the Duran shop is also down in the description. Alexander Mercouris, Editor-in-Chief of the Duran, thank you. Until next time, take care.